Tonight's story is an old favorite, about three little pigs, and the houses they built, and a rather grumpy wolf who just wanted a place to belong. If you're ready, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin. Once, in a green and gentle countryside, there lived three little pigs, who decided it was time to leave their mother's cozy home and build houses of their very own. The first little pig, whose name was Pip, was in rather a hurry. He wanted his house finished quickly, so he could get back to napping in the warm afternoon sun. So Pip gathered bundles of straw from a nearby field, and built his house fast, walls of straw, a roof of straw, even a little straw door. "There," Pip said, dusting off his hooves. "All done. Now, for a nap." The second little pig, whose name was Wilbur, took a bit more time. He gathered sturdy sticks from the edge of the forest, and wove them together carefully into walls, with a proper wooden door and a little chimney on top. "There," Wilbur said, quite pleased with himself. "Sturdy enough. Now, let's see what Pip is up to." He trotted over to visit his brother, and the two of them sat together outside Pip's straw house, humming softly in the afternoon sun. The third little pig, whose name was Bramble, was the slowest and most careful of the three. She spent many days gathering red bricks, and many more days stacking them, one by careful one, mixing mortar and smoothing it between each layer. "Bramble, you're so slow," Pip called over one afternoon. "Come nap with us." "In good time," Bramble called back gently, not looking up from her work. "A good house takes patience. I'd rather build it right than build it fast." Pip and Wilbur shrugged, and went back to napping in the sun, while Bramble kept building, brick by careful brick, until at last, her house stood strong and solid, with a real fireplace, thick walls, and a heavy wooden door. Now, in those same woods, there lived a wolf named Gruff. Gruff wasn't a cruel wolf, not really. He was mostly just lonely, and a little grumpy about it, the way anyone might get after too many quiet evenings alone in the forest. One evening, as the light grew dim, Gruff caught the warm, cozy smell of pig stew drifting from Pip's little straw house, and he thought, quite reasonably, that a warm meal and a bit of company sounded rather nice. So he knocked at Pip's straw door. Little pig, Gruff called. "Let me come in." Pip peeked through a gap in the straw wall, and squealed nervously. "Not by the hair of my chinny chin." Gruff sighed, a long, tired sigh. Fine. I'll just have to huff and puff and blow your house in, then." And so he did. He took a great big breath, and huffed and puffed, and the straw house came tumbling down in a soft, harmless heap. Pip squealed and scampered off, straight to Wilbur's stick house next door, and slipped inside just as Wilbur bolted the wooden door behind him. Gruff, a little out of breath from all that huffing, trotted over to Wilbur's house next. Little pigs, he called. "Let me come in. I only want a warm place to sit, and maybe a bowl of that stew I smelled earlier." "Not by the hair of our chinny chins," the two pigs called back together, muffled and nervous behind the door. Gruff sighed again, even more tired this time. "Very well. Huffing and puffing it is." He took an even bigger breath, and huffed and puffed a bit more, until the stick walls creaked and wobbled and finally tumbled down too. Pip and Wilbur squealed and dashed off together, as fast as their little hooves could carry them, straight to Bramble's brick house, and threw themselves inside just as she swung the heavy door shut. By now, Gruff was very out of breath indeed, and more than a little grumpy about it. Little pigs, he called, leaning against Bramble's sturdy brick wall to catch his breath. "Let me come in. Please. I've had rather a long evening." "Not by the hair of our chinny chins," the three pigs called back, though Bramble's voice sounded a bit calmer than the others. Gruff took the biggest breath he could manage, and huffed and puffed again. But the brick house didn't budge. Not one bit. He tried once more, huffing until he was quite red in the face, but Bramble's careful brick walls held firm, patient and unmoving. Finally, Gruff sat down outside the door with a heavy sigh, all out of huff and puff entirely. "Well," he said, a bit deflated. "That's that, then." Inside the house, the three little pigs peeked at each other. "He does sound rather tired," Wilbur whispered. "And a bit sad, actually," Pip added. Bramble, who had been listening quietly at the door, thought for a moment. "Gruff," she called softly through the heavy wood. "Why did you want to come in, really?" There was a pause outside. Then, in a smaller, quieter voice than before, Gruff said. I suppose. I just wanted somewhere warm to sit for the evening. It gets awfully quiet out here on my own. The three little pigs looked at one another. We do have a big pot of stew, Bramble said gently, and a warm fire. There's room enough for one more, if you promise not to huff and puff any more. There was a long pause outside the door. I promise, Gruff said, his voice softer still. I really am sorry about the straw. And the sticks. So Bramble opened the heavy door, just a little, and there sat Gruff the wolf, looking rather worn out and a bit embarrassed, his tail curled around his paws. Come in, then, Bramble said kindly. Warm yourself by the fire. Gruff stepped in slowly, a little unsure, and settled down near the fireplace, where the warmth spread gently through his tired paws. Pip ladled him a bowl of stew, still warm from the pot. Wilbur found an old blanket and draped it over Gruff's shoulders. And Bramble simply sat beside him, quiet and calm, the way she did most things. Thank you, Gruff said softly, his grumpiness melting away like frost in the morning sun. I haven't had a warm evening like this in a long while. That night, all four of them, Pip, Wilbur, Bramble, and Gruff, sat together by the warm brick fireplace, full of stew, and quiet and comfortable silence. Pip and Wilbur decided, the very next day, that they would rebuild their houses out of brick too, slow and careful, the way Bramble had. And Gruff, well, he still lived out in the woods, in his own little den. But now, most evenings, he'd wander over to Bramble's cozy brick house, and the four of them would sit together by the fire, warm and unhurried. Because sometimes, little one, the thing that seems a bit scary at first, is really just lonely, and tired, and looking for somewhere warm to belong. And a house built slow, and patient, and careful, can hold room enough for more than just the ones who built it. Now the fire is glowing low, and everyone in that cozy brick house is growing sleepy. Their eyes growing heavy, heavier still, until one by one, they drift off to sleep, warm, and safe, and unhurried. Just like you're doing now. Good night, little one. Sleep tight. I'll see you next time.